Alright guys, welcome back to Dragon Army Airsoft, and a whopping 2 months ago, somebody commented Capsule, and he wanted me to make a video on my M14, specifically what I've done in terms of upgrades to it. And yeah, my production process is very slow, unfortunately, but in today's video I'm going to go over the upgrades to my M14. Unfortunately, I do not have good news for this gun. Basically, it's crap. So, let's move on. Okay, so the first mode of complaint with the M14, just straight off the bat, you're gonna have to do this regardless of whether you plan on upgrading it. That is the cutoff lever. Essentially what keeps your gun from going to full auto when you're in semi-automatic. Basically, as soon as I got this gun, it was already broken. We actually sent it back to the people we got it from. They fixed it and it broke again. We have a link to the part in the video description. I think it's on Evike. But just go ahead and get an extra one of these. It's gonna break no matter what. That is a very important thing. Alright, so this is my CYMA M14. I haven't been making a lot of content on it lately because I just didn't think people were interested in it. But I think there are a lot of people that like the M14, so I'll try and start making more content on it. But that's where we get into the sad truth of the CYMA M14 as a weapon in general, and also to upgrade it. Besides the cutoff lever, here are the two upgrades that I did to it initially that didn't break the gun. So, when I first got this gun, besides fixing the cutoff lever, it was really all over the place when we were shooting. One would go up, one would go left, one would go right. It's just not consistent. If you're trying to run it as a DMR, or even just as a main battle rifle as your primary weapon in an assault role, that doesn't do very well. So we got a Angel Customs 6.03 millimeter inner barrel, I believe, and immediately that fixed that problem. Consistency was way better. And then a mosfet. I think it's about 70 bucks for a mosfet, and that comes with a programmer. That definitely helped with the trigger response, especially when we turned on precocking, where essentially you plug in your battery, you fire for the first time, and that actually pulls back the spring and it leaves it compressed. So the next time you pull the trigger, it's super fast, which is nice because these M14 triggers are horrible. And so that definitely helped with the performance in the trigger response in the gun. Just those two upgrades in themselves made this gun a whole lot better. I did a gameplay with it in the woods. I had my scope on it. Just with those two upgrades, I was absolutely loving this gun. It was working. We had a 400 FPS something spring in it. The gun was running very well. So those were the first two initial upgrades. A note about the inner barrel: we got a shorter one than the original stock barrel because it was either a shorter one or a longer one, and we didn't want it sticking out the end of the gun, so that's what we did. But that's where we get into the next part of the M14. Okay, so once we had all those upgrades, I really liked the gun, and I thought, okay, let's start getting into the gearbox and let's see what we can do there. So the first thing to know is that the trigger mechanism around the M14 gearbox, yeah, it's wrapped around the M14 gearbox. So it makes it a pain in the neck to take this gun apart down to the gearbox. That's why we're not doing it now, because really don't need to show you anything because it's that messed up. So what we did was we replaced the hop-up bucking. We put in a new air nozzle because our air seal around, we were losing a lot of air there, and then we replaced the piston head. We threw all those in. Links to those in the video description. We went from above 400 FPS down to like 320 feet per second. Yeah, it basically just ruined the gun. My dad was messing with it and he's just given up. All that's left of those upgrades to the gearbox, the only thing that remains is the hop-up bucking. So the issue is that the M14 isn't an M4. There aren't a lot of parts they make for it. I mean, there are parts available, but the other half of it is that, unlike version 2 gearboxes that go straight into the barrel, into the hop-up unit, the M14 one actually comes at an angle. So my dad was having to modify the air nozzles that we were buying so that it would work at that angle, because they just weren't working on their own as stock. He never got it to do that. So that gets down to the unfortunate truth behind messing with the CYMA M14 as far as upgrades go. If you just leave it to the barrel and the MOSFET, you've got a good gun going, and lots of cutoff levers because those wear out at the end of every season. Internally, if this is your first gun, you don't know a lot about teching and all that, don't ever touch the gearbox, don't ever mess with that. It's just a nightmare. None of the upgrade parts we had in there, except the hop-up bucking, aren't in there. We gained about 20 FPS with the new barrel, so that was pretty good, but yeah, it really sucks that we can't do that on this rifle. I like these. My take is that CYMA has cut corners on this, and I really want to see, I want to buy a GMP M14, compare it to the CYMA. I also want to buy a G&G M14 and compare that to the GMP and the CYMA. Which is better? What are you getting for more money? Are we getting better parts? And are we getting a better design that isn't just stupid and impossible to work with? So that's the take on the gearbox. I'm sorry that we're not digging more into this. I'm not showing you each and every part at breakdown. It's just not worth it. It's basically just say it's a headache to work on an M14. The place we bought it from, they said that one of their techs just about quit because he was working on an M14. So as far as upgrades go, besides the inner barrel and the MOSFET, don't touch the M14. So let's get on to some aesthetics. Okay, so next up is kind of the aesthetic pieces of it. I don't have the rail system out here right now, but we made some modifications to it to make it lighter. Not much to talk about there. My issue is that it sits kind of too high, and so when you're shooting the weapon, you're actually kind of like this, which might be more comfortable, but I prefer to be at the scope closer to the gun, so I'm going to buy some different rail systems for that. So the one on e-Vike, that's like 30 bucks. Don't buy that one. If you want your gun to sit, your scope to sit closer to the gun, don't buy that one. Linked down in the video description. Magazines, this is the big issue to talk about right here. These are linked in the video description. I don't remember who made these. Basically, I bought these mid-caps so I could take this to Milsim's and such. They don't work anymore. I cannibalized one to shove one of the springs inside of it. Didn't work. I took them apart, cleaned them, oiled them. Didn't work. These are no longer with us. So do not buy these. I'm going to be trying some other ones. So this is almost to me an incomplete review because I can't tell you which magazines to buy because I don't know if they work. I don't even know if they exist. I can't tell you what to do to your gearbox to get it to work because we haven't gotten to that point. All I can tell you is upgrade the barrel, upgrade the MOSFET, and leave your stinking CYMA M14 alone when it comes to your gearbox, and buy lots and lots and lots of cutoff levers. Okay, so this is the quick review of the M14 that for some reason took me so long to get to. Apologize for that, but I hope it helps for anybody trying to work on an M14. If anybody has any knowledge on the G&G M14 or the GMP M14 or literally any M14 that is not a CYMA, please let me know because I'm interested to see what those companies have to offer when it comes to a gun that a lot of people like that is not an M4, finally. So I would love to have this as a DMR. I'd love to have a SOCOM M14 to use as a main battle rifle instead of hauling around assault rifles like everybody else, but that's just not on the list yet. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you next time. Get the stupid dog to stop walking around. Bella. Hi. No, you're disgusting.
Ah! You licked the lens!
But this is where we kind of get into the sad truth of my CYMA M14 as, shut up dog, as an upgrade dog. I can't talk. As an